when I do experience stage fright, it's because of my own internal projections
Mm.
of feeling inadequate in the moment. And when I recognize that that's what's causing this fear, it has nothing to do with me speaking. Speaking is not the fear. The fear is the judgment that will come if I do this quote unquote wrong.
Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video. Hello, 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 Fearless Freedom Tribe. This is Dr. G, and we are back for another exciting episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. And today we have on the show Tyler Foley, and Tyler is going to tell us all about himself and all of the amazing things that he is up to. Take it away, Tyler.
Well, I mean, what can I say? I'm dabbling in many pies these days, as I'm sure many people are. I'm doing a lot of public speaking. So excited now that we're back to live audiences, real world interaction. I've been missing that. Been promoting my #1 best-selling book. I've been doing a lot of teaching and instructing on public speaking. Just generally enjoying life right now, Charmaine. I'm enjoying life.
That is amazing. And so now, you've said quite a few things there that I think we should probably try to unpack a few of them, because this is a show about facing fear. And you mentioned a fear that I myself and a lot of people have. Some have said that it is Trump's actually the fear of death.
The fear of dying.
And
Yeah.
that is public speaking. So you got to tell us, like, how do you all of a sudden decide that you're just going to speak in front of other people when that's something that a lot of people are afraid of?
Well, so the funny thing is I didn't just decide it. I grew up in the performing arts. I started in theater when I was 6 years old, moved into film and television in my later teens. So I have been speaking with in a public arena for a very long time. But the funny thing is all of us have been speaking publicly for a very long time. And we don't really have a fear of public speaking. And I think that's one of the biggest myths that's out there is that, I think it's like 70 or 73% or something, some weird number of Americans, when surveyed, express anxiety around this notion of public speaking. And yet they can go to a restaurant and confidently order food, often in front of a wait staff that they've never met. So this notion that we're afraid to speak in public, or that we're afraid to talk to strangers, or even that we're afraid to ask for what we want, is null and void if we've ever been to a restaurant and ordered food. Spoke in public, spoke to a stranger, and food came to your table. You wanted it. So the reality is we're afraid of public judgment. And we're afraid that when all eyes are on us and the focus and attention is drawn our way, that we will be judged negatively, that either our story or how we're perceived, right down to what we're wearing, how our hair is, or all the rest of the story that goes on in our head, overpowers this, the reality of the situation, which is you're just talking, and we talk every day, and we talk in public every day. Nobody goes, "Oh, I can't go to the bank and get that money order today. I'm afraid to speak in public." Right? Nobody goes, "I can't go out to the restaurant. I certainly can't go to the coffee shop. I cannot go into Starbucks because I am terrified of
Oh my gosh.
speaking in public."
Yes.
Right? Nobody says that. But you tell them go and stand on stage and tell your story or speak on something, and they go, "Oh, no, 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 I can't do
Hmm.
that. I am
Yeah.
afraid to speak in public."
Yeah, no, no, that's good. I love that. I love that breakdown because, well, I mean, the tribe knows this, but literally for me, as a physician, obviously I have to do that quite a lot, whether it is in, a number of 2 or 3 because a patient and their families, or it is in front of colleagues or, whatever have you. There's always opportunities for public speaking, but what I realized some time ago was that I had a lot of anxiety surrounding it. And, it wasn't until I recognized that and then I actually start thinking about it very differently that it became something that I actually like doing, right? Versus
Mhm.
something that I was, not the scenarios where it was more than a few people, right? So when you're getting on the stage in front of colleagues and you're talking about a topic, or whatever have you, that was a great source of angst, even if I were well versed on a topic, or like I should feel comfortable. Like this should be no different than talking with a patient and their family. It should be no different than talking with the wait staff, as you described. So I love how you have broken it down, because really the two things aren't different, right? I mean, whether you're in front of hundreds of people, thousands of people, it is still you are still talking to individuals that maybe you may or may not know. It's the same, right? So if you
Yeah.
can do it on a small scale, you should be able to do it on a large scale. But I'll tell you, Tyler, that even though I have gotten to a place where that is more comfortable for me, I still have to change my mindset before getting in front of groups of people.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I talk about is gaining confidence through competence. So, as you know, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And it's very similar to the first time you drove a car or even your first kiss. Like those, it was uh, just heart wrenching. Like you had palpitations going the first time you did it. You're probably nervous. I remember the first time I did both, shaking and just, oh, what if I do this wrong? How do I do? Particularly driving the car, because I was like, it was not a car, it was a truck.
Oh,
It was
wow.
250 was the first vehicle that I ever drove,
That's a
and
massive vehicle.
it's massive, and I had to drive with my cousin in the back throwing hay bales. And so, you want to like do it and like not screw up. And then the second time that I operated a motor vehicle was also a truck. And I had my uncle was standing in front doing one of these
Oh my
come hither
gosh.
type motions, right? Like a little bit
But I don't
forward, a
want
little
to
bit
hit
forward, a
you
little bit
with
forward.
the truck.
And yeah, and I'm like, I cannot be responsible for running over my uncle. And so, but now I wouldn't even think twice about getting into a motor vehicle, right? And it doesn't matter. I wouldn't even care what the make or the model or the type is. For me now, a vehicle is a vehicle, a vehicle. You get in it, you start it, you put it in a drive, and you go. I don't even think twice about it. And that's the same with public speaking. The more we do it, the more automatic it becomes, and the more ingrained it can be in our subconscious versus our conscious, to the point where I can now get into a vehicle, drive from point A to point B, and not remember the drive because it's become so automatic.
Mhm.
Same with public speaking. Because I've been doing it since I was 6 years old, now I just do it. It's just a thing. It's like breathing. It has become a subconscious and automatic response as opposed to a conscious and very deliberate uh, act. And so for you or for any of your listeners, if if the great Dr. G can be struggling with the fear of public speaking as educated and as articulate as you are, then it's okay for everybody else to be struggling with it. But the key is to do it over and over and over again so that it doesn't become a struggle, right? Don't practice till you get it right. Practice till you can't get it wrong.
Absolutely. And so that leads me to another question that I have for you. So you were quite young when you started doing this. Now, do you recall, and maybe there might be some element of, with youth, there is that there is that you don't have the no, I don't want to say fails, but you don't have the like negative experiences that
Well, you
you're
don't have
carrying,
fear.
right? Right.
That's
So
the
like
great thing about being young, because like you
you
look at
never had to
my
do
daughter's.
anything. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, no, but my daughter's 7, and
Yeah.
and I'm all constantly being like, don't do that, it can hurt you, right? We
Yeah,
learn fear. Fear is a learned behavior.
absolutely.
We discover the things that we're supposed to be afraid of. Until then, we're just exploring our world. So at 6 years old, I didn't know to be afraid of an
Okay.
audience. And so my first experience, my first interaction with a live audience was positive.
Mm-hmm.
I made them laugh. I got a standing ovation. That sound is one of my most formative memories and has very impactfully directed decisions in my life from that point on. So I have experienced stage fright. I know what it is like, but
Okay.
for it is rare, and comes again. How I know that we're not afraid of public speaking and how I know that we're afraid of public judgment is because when I do experience stage fright, it's because of my own internal projections
Mm-hmm.
of feeling inadequate in the moment. And when I recognize that that's what's causing this fear, it has nothing to do with me speaking. Speaking is not the fear. The fear is the judgment that will come if I do this quote unquote wrong. And the 3 times that I can clearly remember having stage fright. The first time was 14, delivering a poem for Remembrance Day or Veterans Day. Very famous poem here in Canada in Flanders Fields, and I'd had that poem memorized for probably 4 or 5 years when I was asked to deliver it for this particular ceremony in the ninth grade. But it was the first time that I'd ever delivered it in front of veterans.
Oh, wow.
And I remember seeing these veterans, this one in particular, this gentleman had been wheeled to the front in a wheelchair, and he had a walking cane. And I remember him leaning in on the cane like this, and like his eyes stared through me. Like he pierced my soul, this man. And he was highly decorated. And I remember going up thinking, you've actually seen the war. Like,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the crosses in Flanders Fields. You may actually know some of the names written on those crosses. And I felt so inadequate. And I remember thinking to myself, who am I to be talking to this man about a thing that I've never seen? I don't even really. And at that point, I hadn't really truly analyzed the poem, and I started thinking about the words, and the poem talks about how just moments ago these men had breathed and lived a life, and now here they are dead, and
Wow.
the only memory of their existence is these crosses row on row with all of these poppies growing between them. And and the whole thing just rushed into me. And so, and the worst part is it's called In Flanders Fields. The
Okay.
very first line of the play is in Flanders Fields, where the poppies grow amongst the crosses row on row. The title is literally the first words. Do you think I could remember them? I was standing there, the blood rushed from me, and yet I was still hot. My mouth was dry, but I was spitting everywhere. And I just stood up there going, poppies, poppies, poppies. And I couldn't say it. And then I was mortified because everybody knew, like, if you needed somebody to say something, you had Tyler do it because he's an actor, and you get actor boy to do it. And my vice principal, Dave Holloway Chuck, God bless him, he stepped up to the podium. He's like, go and check. And I was so arrogant too that I'd had this poem memorized that I didn't even have a copy of it to reference.
Oh,
So he kind
okay.
of like shoved me to the side, got me a copy of it, and then said, we'll come back to him. They ended up playing taps, and then I came back and read the poem. Um, and and then the next time that I had stage fright, I was doing my senior performance, or no, it was my junior performance. It was my grade 10 year. I had to give a monologue. And I, again, in my arrogance, figured I didn't need to prep. And then when all of my peers were looking at me, and literally judging me because everybody got to score how well you did on the monologue, and all these I saw other people doing it and they were doing really well, and I knew that I hadn't prepared, and then it just went blank. And then my most recent time of experiencing stage fright, I was actually officiating a wedding, and I've officiated dozens of weddings, but it's always been for friends. This was the first wedding that I had done where I didn't know the couple until literally the day before the wedding. And I met them for the rehearsal and did the thing. And what made this one even more unique and special was this is the first time that I had conducted a same-sex marriage. And so these two fine gentlemen came up, and I remember at the rehearsal being like, okay, so are we spouse and spouse, husband and husband, partner and partner? How do you want to do this? And they're like, we would like husband and husband. And I said, perfect. And I have, a couple of really good wedding ceremony speeches that have been put together, and the ceremonies are well done. And I can do a really nice one. I can do a very religious one. I can do kind of hybrid. They wanted the non-religious version. And the only thing I had to get right, I mean, I can go off book and off script for all of that. The only thing I needed to get right, Dr. G, the only thing at the end, I needed to say, I now pronounce you husband and husband. That's all I needed to do. Well, the one groom comes walking down, and I'm like, yep. And then the next groom comes walking down, and it kind of dawns on me, this is groom and groom. There's no real difference in the ceremony, but this is their one chance. And they had to go to this venue and get me to do the ceremony because their other officiant that they had hired refused to marry them when the officiant figured out that it was two men. And so they were in a scramble last minute to try and find an officiant. And the gravity of it kind of hit me. And I'm like, what if I screw this up? This is their special day. What if I was in this scenario? I need to make it right. And again, it became this egotistic thing of me. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Instead of focusing on them. Anyway, I started to feel anxiety around it. I'm like, this is silly. Luckily, I'm a professional and could recognize what was happening. I'm like, no, just focus on them. So I did. I focused on them. I was happy. They come up, talk to the one, talk to the other. And then what did I do at the very end? What did I do, Charmaine?
You said groom and groom.
I now pronounce you husband and wife. I mean husband. I mean husband and husband. Groom and groom, you guys just kiss. And that's how their ceremony ended. All I needed to do was stick the landing. I could have screwed up the routine anywhere in there, but I needed to stick the landing, and it was the one bit that I failed. I felt so bad. But luckily, it was immortalized forever by 3 cameras and a drone camera. So,
oh dear. Gee, yeah. How did they feel about it? I mean, I don't know, were they laughing about it?
That's the thing. They laughed it off.
Okay.
It didn't matter in the end, right? Their family was so happy to see them. And what made it worse too, because of COVID, their original wedding was canceled. Their next wedding got postponed. So they had been trying to get this thing done for 2 years.
Oh, gee. That's a long
and so
time.
I think just the able to kiss and exchange rings in front of their friends and family was all that they needed. But again, it was pressure that I was putting on my head. It was an internalized thing. And really to getting out of that is recognizing that if you focus on your audience, it's really hard to focus on you. And if you just make them the center of your concentration, then it's so much easier to talk and overcome those anxieties.
Hey, it's Dr. G, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for listening to this episode. I'm so honored to have you here with me. Did you know that I can help you to get your own podcast started? With my podcasting launch course for professionals, I walk you through everything you need to know about starting a podcast. I'm with you every step of the way, from sign up to launching your show, with 5 episodes ready to go. There's a done for you version that's also available. If you would just rather just do recordings and leave the behind the scenes work up to us, then that one is definitely for you. But either way, we've got your back here at Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Oh, if you already have a show and you need production services, we have monthly plans available for you. So check out the links in the episode show notes for more information. Let's get back to the show. Wow, those are some great pearls, because I'm telling you that as I was hanging on every word, I'm sure the tribe is hanging on every word, because you're like, well, how is it possible that he's a professional speaker and he had, stage fright? So
Yeah.
no, thank you for sharing those stories, because that's truly amazing. So helpful. Oh my gosh.
Well, and the thing that I realized too is a lot of that fear comes from a lack of preparation. So you're either a lack of preparation or a lack of confidence, or both, right? Again, that confidence comes through competence. And competence, ironically, has a legal definition: adequately qualified, suitably trained, with sufficient experience to perform the task with minimal or no supervision. So you as a doctor, you know, are qualified based on your education and based on the trainings that you have received, and then the additional training, right, and the in-services that you're going to have to
Oh
do,
yeah,
and your
constantly.
professional development is going to keep you going. But it's the experience, right? Think back to the first day, right, as an
Oh
intern,
yeah.
and you step in,
And
right,
they asked
to
me to be the doctor that walks in the room. Yes.
yeah, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? But then you look who you are now,
Yeah.
and you understand your practice, your diagnosis. You understand what you're going to do each with, even if you get a new scenario, you have an idea of how to approach it now, where that first time was terrifying. And it's the
Yes.
same for anything that we do.
Indeed.
Yeah. But the more you did it, easier it got, and same with this. And I think you would agree with me, when you make your patient your focus, if you're not worried about you and you start
Yeah.
worrying about them, right, you start getting into the process of a diagnosis, or a surgery or anything, and things start clicking into the automatic, and you go, oh, this is, and then you get to the end of it and you're like, that was way easier than what I thought. And same with the public speaking. When once you can get into the rhythm and the routine, and you can make your audience your focus, then it's so easy to get past your own limiting belief, your own internal dialogue, because you stop hearing it, because you start hearing your audience. And that's really the key.
That is good. I love it. Love that. Yeah, and then so let's see the book again.
Oh yes, naturally. Yeah, good.
The Power to Speak Naked, for those listening and not watching. Awesome.
Yes, it's Power to Speak Naked, #1 best-selling book,
And
which was
so what
remarkably
prompted
easier than what I thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So tell me, what prompted you to write that?
So unlike most people who have like this burning desire to be a published author, or they just, whatever, they've got to get these words onto the page, I actually wrote the book because a promoter wouldn't put me up on his stage until I had a book. And I had everything else. I had the skill set, I had the keynote, I had the presentation, I even had a training course that we could sell at the back for him. He's like, yeah, nobody will care if you don't have a book. I was like,
Wow.
yeah, okay. So I literally took my training courses, grabbed the audio from all the video, transcribed that, gave it to a ghostwriter to compile for me, and had a really phenomenal editor as well look through it. And then the book was made, so that I could then turn around to Salim and say, here you go. Here is my
Yes.
book. Now can I be on your stage? And he was said, as a matter of fact, you can. And it was born of necessity, really, as most
Yes.
things,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
You don't do it until you need to.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Oh, that's such a good story. Then now it's like it's an extension of you, right? Because it's content that you utilize to train individuals, right?
Well, yeah, and the beautiful thing about it is, originally I self-published it because, again, I only needed to have a book that I could give to promoters and venues when I'm booking, large conference stages. So it was a simple thing to be self-published, and then you order a couple hundred copies, sell it off at cost or wholesale to these promoters, and then they can deal with it as they want. But what was interesting is I was actually speaking in Bend, Oregon for Les
Okay.
Brown. Les
Mm-hmm.
Brown was doing a training thing for a very intimate, very high paying crowd. And for those who don't know, Les has been living with cancer for a couple decades now, really,
Mm-hmm.
and doing well with it. But it does limit his ability to do things occasionally. And
Mm.
he was just not feeling good. It was a 3 day workshop, and he was oh man, was he on? He was just delivering. And so I was there as kind of like support and backup, and then he couldn't come on the final day. So the promoter there, who knew me, asked if I would go and speak uh, on the topics that Les was going to cover, and then do it in my own way. And so I got this wonderful opportunity to speak with him. But at that conference was a publisher,
Okay.
and I, having copies of the book, I always give it out. As you said, it becomes the business card, and it
Yes.
supports the trainings and the teachings. And so I give the books out. And he got a copy of it, and was thumbing through it and went about his way. And about a week later, I get this call from a New York area code. I'm like, hello. He's like, Tyler. I was like, yes. David Hancock with Morgan James. I've got a copy of your book. I don't know if you remember. You gave it to me when we were met in Bend. I was like, yeah, no, I know. He goes, um, have you ever thought about traditionally publishing your book? I said, no, I have not. And so he ended up signing me up and getting my book out there in more traditional manner. So where before you had to just go to Jeff Bezos' site and click add to cart, now you can
Right.
actually go to Barnes and Noble or Chapters or Indigo or
Right.
any of your favorite bookstores and actually get a physical copy of the book in a bookstore,
Nice.
which is super cool for me.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. That, yeah. It's so funny because all the things that you mentioned, because you said yes to certain things, and as a result of that, other things happened. And that is so true about facing fear. Now, you have been facing fear, even though you say that you don't really have a deep fear of this. You've been facing fear your whole life, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And every time, I mean, I'm sure that even getting on a venue at Les Brown, like I'm sure there had to be some fear involved in even asking or even getting on that venue, because he's no small potatoes.
No, he's no small potato. So the funny thing is, it wasn't a fear. There was a little bit of anxiety. I did have some trepidation on it because again, it's Les's crowd. So I wanted to make sure that, because if it was just me, it's just my gig, I get to come and do me. But I'm representing Les Brown now. And so my biggest concern was making sure that not only I protected his name, but also the promoter who had put it all together, because she had vouched for me saying, no, Tyler can deliver. You just got to give him the shot. And for both her and Les to have put that faith in me meant that I
Mm-hmm.
had to bring my best to it. So there was definitely some anxiety and some trepidation over the prep. How am I going to truly deliver this? But again, the quick way for me to get over it is I knew what Les wanted, right? So I knew what the end destination was, because me and him were able to discuss it. What do you need to get out of this presentation? And then I just asked the audience, okay, where are we at with this? Knowing where I needed to take them. And that's really the key to any good, solid presentation. First discover where your audience is at and know what the end destination is so that you can guide them on that journey like a Sherpa.
Yes, nice.
And the biggest mistake I find most people make around public speaking is they try to memorize a script. And so there's all this pressure to memorize these words, which doesn't serve you and it doesn't serve your audience, because you don't know where your audience is at when you're
Yeah.
writing a script.
Yeah.
And the end destination may change too. And on top of it, it's a waste of mental power. Like, trust me, as somebody who has had to memorize script after script after script for going on 40 years, it is a hard, and it gets harder. The older you get, the harder it becomes to do this um, memorization. And so I learned very quickly that the best thing you can do is find out where your audience is at. Because if I wanted to come down and visit you,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I don't know that I'm starting from my house, I can't enter in the directions in the GPS, right? I need a starting destination and an end destination. And so you need to find out where your audience is, because if you think you're guiding them from Missouri to California and it ends up that they're actually in Boca Raton, Florida, you can never get them to the end destination. And so with Les's crowd, I really did, find out where are you at.
Mm-hmm.
So because I knew where Les needed to get them to, and it was varied, and so I was able to provide input that way, which made it a much more engaging presentation. It took a lot of the pressure off of me, and I put it back on them. Like,
Yeah.
how do you think we can get to where we're going? And we got all the suggestions, and I was able to put it into my GPS and get them to where they needed to be.
Good, good, good. No, that sounds like it was a fantastic event for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice. And so if somebody is looking to get in contact with you, Tyler, how would they do that? Do you have like a
Well,
website or something you want to share?
oh yeah, the best way to reach me, Dr. G, is through my website, which is SeanTylerFoley.com. Sean is spelled the proper Irish way, SeanTylerFoley.com. Tell them Tyler sent you. But before they jump to the website, I would ask your audience right now, your tribe who's listening to you regularly, if they're constantly or even casually listening to Fearless Freedom and they like what you are providing for them, I would ask that they hit pause on whatever device they're listening to this right now and give you a 5-star review and tell you why. What is it about your show that is bringing your audience back episode after episode after episode? And be specific. What was your favorite one? Was it maybe the interview with Chris Howard, who is a mutual friend of yours and mine? I loved that episode where you guys had your discussion with
Yeah,
him.
that
Like
was a really good episode.
it really is, and it's one of my right. So what are those episodes that stand out for them, so that what guests are resonating with your audience, so that you can make the show better for them. It really only serves them. So as a thank you from me, if your audience is willing to leave you a 5-star review, they can come over to SeanTylerFoley.com, and right on the main page, there's a big invitation to join my Facebook group called Endless Stages, where I go live every Tuesday at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. For 20 minutes, we give a live training based on whatever is the topic of the week that bubbles up in the group while the week is going through. I review all the stuff. What are people asking? And then I do a live training on that. I will also give everybody a free PDF download of the #1 best-selling book, The Power to Speak Naked. So they don't have to track it down on Jeff's site or go to their local book retailer. They can just get a PDF. And if they like it, then they can go and buy the book. And if they're wondering how to buy the book, in bulk, buy it in bulk. That is the best way to buy my book. And we will also give them a free video series that I recorded called Drop the Mic, which is an introductory video session to my training. So they'll get the book, the training session, live one training with me every Tuesday, and we'll also give them a 20-minute session one-on-one with me to just explore whatever they need to explore around public speaking or any other fears that they may have. But only if they give you a 5-star review, Dr. G. That they need to do that for me, and then I will do the rest for them.
Wow, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So that is a fantastic segue into our traditional segment, which is fill in the blank. So I know you're ready. Absolutely ready.
I am.
So here we
Looking
go.
forward to it.
All right, here we go. The first one is, if I am fearless, I will
achieve anything.
Awesome. Awesome. The next one is, to me, fearless freedom means.
One more time.
To me, fearless freedom means.
Being able to quiet the voice in your head long enough to achieve the thing you're setting out to do.
Nice, nice. And the last one is, my battle cry is.
Let's do this thing.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for spending time with us here at Fearless Freedom Tribe. We love it and we appreciate you. And, we hope that we will see lots and lots of you in the future.
Undoubtedly. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.